Welcome to Leaders in Lending. I'm your host, Jeff Keltner. This week's episode features my conversation with Bruce Foulke, the president and CEO of American Heritage Credit Union, and recently named American Bankers Credit Union Executive of the Year. I enjoyed this conversation. We dove in with Bruce to talk about growing this organization from just 4 employees when he got there to over 700, with over 50 mergers in the process. But most of the asset growth they've seen, over $4 billion in assets now, has not come from the mergers, has really come from, I would say, a culture of hustle, hard work, and customer service that he has instilled, up to and including a contact the CEO button on their website. It's really a fascinating story about how they've seen the future, how they've really gone out of their way to find ways to serve customers. I think you can really feel that culture emanating from the conversation with Bruce. And we also dive into some of the charitable work he's done, including his trip to Ukraine to deliver ambulances that he had built. So fascinating guy, fascinating conversation, lots of tidbits of wisdom and many things to learn. So please enjoy this conversation with Bruce. Bruce, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining us today. I appreciate you making the time.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here and help to talk to you about whatever you want to talk about.
Give me free reign. That's a dangerous thing, Bruce. You never know where we'll go.
That's exactly right.
Well, I start this all my conversations off with the same basic question, which is kind of tell me about your journey into the banking industry. How did you wind up in the banking and credit union space?
When I graduated from college in 75 and 77, I got 2 degrees. I was landscaping for everybody that was working in the government. And they all told me, and even as Speaker of the House of North Carolina, I went to NC State, and the Speaker of the House, I used to mow his yard, and everybody said, you need to go work for a credit union. I said, what the hell's a credit union? And they said, it's like being a banker. I said, okay, I'll do that. So I walked in the door, and the guy said, actually, it was Jim Blaine's predecessor. And the guy said, hey, I got to hire you because you know everybody.
They cut their grass.
Right, that's right. So that's how I got in it. I worked down in North Carolina for a couple of years, and then I came up to Philadelphia in 79, and I've been here. I can't hold a job. I've been here, 43 years right now?
43 years. What do you mean you can't hold a job? That's a lot of longevity, 43 years in one place.
Yeah, actually it is.
Well, I want to talk about your current credit union because you guys are fascinating. You grew this business, if I understand right, from like 4 employees to several hundred. So that's quite the journey you guys have been on. Tell me a little bit about how you got into this and what that journey's been like.
You know, used to be called Bud Workers Federal Credit Union, and we were around $4 million. We had four employees plus me, and everybody in the plant, because they used to manufacture automobile parts like stampings for doors and fenders. And everybody was saying, hey, they're going out of business. They're going out of business. So I went out. I said, you know what? I got to figure out how we can survive. So I went back. I went out in the marketplace looking for a merger partner, and I found this small credit union up the road. And they said, hey, are you interested in merging with me? And next thing you know, it was around a $50,000 credit union. It was real tiny, which most of them were back then. And so what happened was I just went after other credit unions to try to merge with me. And, I had done, 55 mergers over the years. But if you add them all together, it's not even going to be 200 million. So, and we're 4.5 billion now. And now I have 725 employees working for us. So that's the background.
Well, I'm going to ask you 2 questions about that. One, what's the biggest lesson you've learned? I mean, 50 plus mergers is that's more than most of us will do in a career. What are the things you learned or kind of, would do different or have done better as you've gotten down the road and gotten smarter about how to do these things?
I didn't take the mergers on just to take a merger. I took it on for stability, what it was going to do for my credit union to preserve our credit union. And that's what I was really scared about, because the government came to me. Back in the 80s, the government came to me and said, Bruce, would you take this merger? Bruce, you take this merger? I had so many merger opportunities because the government was trying to find merger partners. And I said, yeah. So I was fortunate enough that they knew I was one of the few people out there taking a merger. Now everybody wants to take mergers. So You go figure. But so
you were ahead of the curve. It has been a trend, the consolidation of both banks and credit unions over the last. It kind of surprised me. I come in to the industry, almost a decade ago, and go, how many banks are there? Time to think about your universe of the industry you're in, and then you look at the history, and they were like 20,000 in the 70s. Now there's like 5,000 of each, and you kind of go, that's been and that line is like it's just pretty constant. That kind of decrease in numbers and consolidation in the industry.
When I came here, where there was 26,000 credit unions, I was like the 6,000th largest credit union. Now I'm, I don't know, 85th largest.
No, there aren't 6,000 credit unions. I don't think so. You can't be 6,000.
No, it's like 5,000.
It's right around 5, I think.
Crashing.
Well, so if you only acquired less than 200 million in assets, but you gotten over 4 billion, you've done something else to grow the credit union over the years, other than just the mergers. The mergers clearly, I think, expanded your field of membership and employer partners you are working with, et cetera. But how did you think about the kind of growth you've achieved? Because that's, I think, almost every credit union and bank I talk to is trying to grow the number of members, the number of customers they have in the fold, and you've done that pretty successfully. What's the secret? Have you gone about that?
When I first started out, I went out and I solicited everybody. It was me. It was Bruce. I was the guy that was the PR guy. I was the marketing guy. I was the loan officer. So I was out there soliciting people to join the credit union. I knew how to better sell this credit union than anybody else. And I knew I had to do something differently. And I said, we got to be different than everybody else. So we never surcharge. So people come to us because we don't surcharge at any of our 100 ATMs that we got out there. So people are, and that's what our name has been promoted out there. Other people are saying, go to American Heritage. They don't whack you a fee for surcharging. So, and then that's how I also get people to join the credit. And they said, oh, you know what? You guys are really caring about the community. So I've been in the street myself, and I know what people want. And I focused on healthcare industry and the government, federal government industry. They were the ones I was focusing on, and it did come out to our advantage because the health industry is booming right now, and the federal government industry is somewhat booming if they show up for work. But that's the other 50 million question.
I hear you used to go into the hospital for all the shifts to sign people up hand-to-hand combat style with the doctors and nurses there in the facilities.
And I did do that, and I went to all 3 shifts at the hospital for 2 weeks. I was exhausted. I'd sleep in between the times, and I would do classes where I would actually be in front of a class, and people would come to me. And that's how I tried to do it initially. I said, I want to do classes, trying to have 20 or 30 people in a class. And that's what I did on three shifts. And that's how we really grew. It's still part of our MO that we go into the workplace partners, as we call them. You got to go out there. You got to be where the people are.
Yeah. How do you maintain that as the CEO, as the organization grows and you get bigger and bigger? I imagine, it's harder and harder for you to be the one in the street and be hearing the feedback and feeling that direct connection. Are there things you do that try and keep you connected to the customers in the same way you used to be when it was, Bud's Credit Union? It's just 4 of you.
No, it's not a Budweiser. But here's what I have on our website. And I said, I don't want to forget where I came from. I want to have a contact the CEO button that anybody can call me or talk to me when they want to. And I return every single email personally. And I give them my personal direct phone number here at work. And I called some lady that was stuck in Paris, France one time because she was stuck, and she sent an email. I said, hey, I'm stuck. I can't get my credit card to work. And I called her up. I think it was like 2:00 in the morning, their time over in France. And I walked her through and got her out of Paris. So they know who I am. People will say, and my staff knows, hey, go email Bruce. He'll call you back. And they know I will call him back.
How much traffic do you how many members do you have that you're exposing the contact the CEO button to? And how much traffic do you actually get on that?
We have 280,000 members. If I get one person a day, that's pretty much it. Most CEOs are afraid to put their contact out there directly. But you know what? It's the way I was brought up.
I love those. Family. I love those numbers because I think it really speaks to the cost to you is quite small. I mean, a call a day is not a big deal, and the value I think that people feel in the accessibility is quite high. And so I think it's quite fascinating that you've got that many members who have the ability to contact you, and they probably feel great that they can, and very few actually do. And that's it's an interesting lesson for everybody, I think, because it's clear that you're getting more trust.
There was a bank out, or maybe it's still out there, had a telephone on the front desk that could go right to the president and CEO. I've heard that. But yeah, I don't get that many. I don't get that many phone calls or emails out there because you know what? I got a great staff. If you got a great staff, they're going to handle the problem. So that's key.
Jeff Bezos is famous for kind of forwarding emails from customers because I don't think he reads all of the emails. I think he gets a few more than one a day. But he gets emails directly from customers, and he's famous for forwarding them with just a question mark to the responsible executive. And I think it's the most dreaded email at Amazon because there's no commentary. It's just a question mark, kind of like something went wrong, fix it. How did this get screwed up? Do you ever farm it out and send these things on to the right people for faster response? And scared of your question mark emails?
No, I never did a question mark. Now that you mentioned it, maybe that's what I should do. What's going on here? But you know what? As I said, I do write notes, and I do write to the employees who I think that can help solve the problem for them. Hey, take care of this. Call me back and let me know. And then I contact the member. Hey, so and so is going to help you. If they don't, here's my direct number. Call me back.
Interesting. Yeah. I love that direct connection. I think so many people. We've had this conversation with a lot of guests here. How do you maintain, as you get bigger and farther removed from the frontline staff, that direct connection to the voice of the customer and the needs of the customer, and remembering what it's like to be a frontline employee and what those needs are? And I think it's a great example of how you're doing it.
Yeah, and that's critical. It's just like the employees have to have access to me too. Everybody calls me Bruce. I know I'm a pain in the butt at times, but they all know that I'm real. I'm really real.
Just a regular guy in the suit. What's next for you guys? What do you see on the horizon? I mean, you've obviously had a tremendous transition from small to large credit union, lots of mergers, tons of growth in assets. What's on the horizon? What gets you excited about what's down the road? Is it more of the same? Are there trends you see emerging that are going to change the way you think about interacting? Like, how do you see the future of the space and of your business?
Well, we were one of the first to jump into Pop.io with those video teller machines. And we're heavily into that. I think we got like 100 of those machines now in our branches. So people will actually go up to, you see a live teller behind a video screen, but I don't want to lose that contact. But what I'm seeing is that, let's face it, you can't afford people today that don't want to work. So you got to figure out ways to get people to come into work or how to pay them to answer the phone. And that's what we're saying. Okay, how do we expand this? We just rolled out 2 years ago, VANA, which stands for Video Advisor Network Associates, where we actually made a commercial of me announcing it to the press that, hey, you want to talk to a live person? Go sit at home on your iPad. Here's the number. Just push the button on American Age website, and you'll get a live person to talk to you. You got to have that personal experience. We're trying to get into the AI stuff right now and have our phones answered to help out with the phone calls out there. So that's where it's going to be at.
How do you think about the difference with those two? Because I think it's really fascinating. The second person talking about the video teller machines with like a real live person in the teller. And of course, once you've got that, you go, why do you have to go to the branch to do it? You can just do the video from, in your hoodie sweatshirt, like I'm wearing from your living room where I'm at. But it's curious because the AI is kind of like the replacing the human with some sort of technology that can have a basic interaction without talking to a person. And the video teller is kind of the opposite, saying, hey, you've come in somewhere and I want you to actually have a human conversation with a real person who can talk to you. And I'm curious how you think about the role each of those kind of technologies plays. My sense is it's not like A or B. It's some kind of combination where each of them has a role to play. And how do you think about how those things sit next to each other and how you figure out when somebody wants to have a high touch experience and when someone wants to go, how do I just interact with the machine and get through this as quickly as I can?
Okay, so if you come to the office, you can either do we call them PAT machines, personal automated teller, where you have the video tellers. But you also have a smart office, and the smart office is you walk in, you sit down, and there it contacts one of our our concierge people that it goes out and they can talk to the person there right in the branch. All the computer equipment's there for the printers, all the signature stuff. But what we're going to do now at home, we're going to do everything through DocuSign. We're going to send you the documents online. You're going to just do it there and don't make sure you have your clothes on. That's all I worry about, man. What the heck? And then, that's the only way I think we're going to be able to survive and still offer personal service. Because people are going to get smart and they're going to know it's an artificial intelligence machine. And it will answer you. If you say, hey, are you a real person? They'll say, no, I'm not.
They're trained not to lie about it. Unlike the original outsourced call centers. Do you remember those where you'd call in and somebody would be talking to you from some foreign country? You go, where are you at? I'm in Atlanta. And I go, I don't think so. I don't think that's right. They were a little untruthful about that. But the AI typically is trained to just, I'm not a real person. I'm just an AI.
So the biggest challenge I say is going to be getting people to fill the void with not having as many employees needed to run the operation. We got 700 some employees here. And, with COVID, people decide, hey, I want to work from home. Well, you can't build a culture without coming to work. I don't care what you say. And I guarantee you, what do you think, and that should be a good question, what do you think all the major cities in the United States would look like if nobody showed up downtown, all the shops closed, all the barber shops closed, it would be horrendous. It would be horrendous. You know what? You have to come back to work, and you have no culture. How do you get a culture?
So are you guys back to like 5 days in the office? What's your kind of post-COVID remote, non-remote, in office, part-time in office? Where are you guys at on that spectrum of kind of responding to this?
Most of the people have to work 3 days in the house and then 2 days from home. All my vice presidents come in because I want to talk to them. I want to see them. And I just think I just think you got to ingrain a culture in the people.
Certainly, I think you've ingrained a culture of hustling and hard work and serving the customer, and that is a little harder to do and feel. There's just like a vibe. It's, to me, kind of like the difference between watching. I just thought of this, but like you watch a sports event on TV, and in some ways it's better, like higher def, you get better video replays, but it's not the same vibe. It's not the same feel, right? There's a different experience to being in a stadium when a game is being played with a lot of people. You never capture that when you watch the game at home. You can get, maybe better snacks and better beer and a bigger screen for the replays, but it's not the same experience as being in person for that event. The company feels the same way. You can't get the feel, the culture doesn't come through the same way, even if you have, more convenience or whatever.
Yeah, you don't have people spilling beer on you.
I mean, what's a ball game without people spilling beer on you? Throwing peanuts on the ground or whatever it might be. But those are things that are unique to the stadium, unique to the culture of a particular team, and it's what kind of binds those fans together, right? Is the experience of living it together in some ways.
Yeah, and that's what it's about. It's you got to be. We're social, people.
Yeah, we are a social creature at the end of the day, whatever we may want to believe.
My biggest thing, and another thing that differentiates American Heritage, is that we were the first credit union to roll out a not-for-profit charitable organization called the Kids in Hope 27 years ago, and we raised $3 million for Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, which we pay for the music therapy program down there. The money goes to a specific program.
So I was going to ask you about your charitable works. I know you've done quite a bit, but how did you pick the music program in the hospital? That's very specific, and I'm curious why you chose to be specific in what you do with the charitable work and how you picked that particular beneficiary and program.
Well, when I was driving down 95 on a Friday at 11:30 at Cotman Avenue, I heard Make-A-Wish was taking a kid up to Alaska. And I said, I'm going to take a kid to Disney World. And I went down to Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and I told the guy, hey, I'm taking one of the kids to Disney World. He said, no, give me the money. I said, no, Jack. And that was his name, Jack. So I could talk to him because he's a drinking buddy. And then I went over to the Seashore House, and that's the rehab hospital. And they said the same thing. We need the money because we're the last hospital that has a music therapy program. I said, nah, I like Disney World better. And they said, "Do you know what music therapy does?" I said, "I kind of." He says, "Music therapy gets kids to move their arms or legs. They forget about their pain. It's therapy." And I said, "Yeah, okay, what's the big deal?" I said, "I still like going to Disney World." And he says, "Let me tell you what happened today. Yesterday. A 12-year-old girl got hit by a car in Philadelphia, and she broke her neck, and she became paraplegic. And the art therapist was working with her at the seashore house, and the art therapist asked her, 'What's that picture of?' They put a pen in her mouth, and they said, 'What's that picture of?' And she says, 'Oh, that's a picture of my heart.' 'Well, what's all the red squiggly lines for?' She says, 'Oh, that's a picture of my heart on fire.' She says, 'Why's your heart on fire?' She says, 'Because I can never hug my mommy again.' I said, "We're in the music therapy business." And we raised $3 million. And it's the employees doing it here. It's not American Heritage writing a check. It's the employees help raise money. That's the difference. Because I know a lot of the big cranes, they write $500,000 or $100,000 or whatever for their event. But it's our employees that do it. We give them the time off to do it.
So the employees go down and volunteer and participate in the program.
Yeah, they do a lot. We go down there and play games with the kids. We actually bought them a robot a few years ago, which greeted all the kids coming into the music therapy program. It's kind of cool. It was on national TV, but we did.
It's kind of, I don't want to say old school, but it reminds me of the origins of community banking and credit unions. Real true connection with the community that you're serving, not just in the kind of business that you're in, but as a real community organization that's ingrained in, embedded in, working with, volunteering in the community. I love that story because it really is about how the organization's embedded with that place, the people that are there. It's great.
Yeah. And that, the other big thing about us, about me especially, I'm a volunteer firefighter. I just believe I got to help out people. I can't drive by an accident without helping or stopping. I just don't believe in that. That's stuff. But I just came back from Ukraine. I believe we raised money for ambulances for over in Ukraine. When I met the Secretary of Poland, he asked for 500 ambulances. I told him I'd get you 2. Right now we're going 10, and we raised $400,000 for ambulances, and they're not the fancy ambulances. These are just converted vans.
They're vans converted with stuff in the back.
Right. So, and I just came back from Lviv, Ukraine, the war zone. And
so you delivered some of these personally. You went over there and delivered some of these ambulances.
Yeah,
how did that go over with the board and the family flying into a war zone? I imagine that was a tough call to go over there and do it in person.
My wife was upset, but she's used to me running out the door and doing crazy things with the fire calls and telling me to slow down. But I had no fear. When we got over there, we picked the ambulance up in Poland and drove it over the border to Lviv, LVIV, Ukraine. Saw the burned out power plants that Putin just blew up the week before. And then we went and delivered it. And when we got out of the truck or out of the ambulance, we heard the air raid sirens going off. And I'm looking around, I'm saying, why isn't everybody running? And they said, "Oh, the Army takes care and the Air Force takes care of all the drones and the missiles come in, 80% of them." I said, "Well, what about the other 20%, man?" They said, "Well, you hope they don't come in." So it was kind of
don't walk near a power plant.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so it was kind of unique. So I was very, very happy. I went over with a good friend of mine, Brian Branch, over there. And I'm going to do it again in another 2 months. I'm going to deliver another ambulance over there because I have to. I just can't sit here.
Wow. Well, that's certainly, I think everybody's got hopes and prayers, but that's doing something very real and personal. So kudos to you.
I think you should go, Jeff, because I can run faster than you.
You can hold on now. I don't like the way you position that, Bruce. I don't think my wife's going to take that as a good rationale. Don't worry, I'm going with Bruce. He runs faster than me when stuff gets past the air defenses. I don't know if that's going to sell well.
She can't take a joke with that.
No, it's great. Anything else? I've got 3 questions I always close this podcast with, and we're coming up on the half hour. I want to leave you a couple minutes for those. But anything else you wanted to cover? You kind of keep bringing up the things that were I've got my list, and you keep getting to them ahead of me. But was there anything else on your list that you wanted to talk about today?
No, you know what? I think you gotta don't think that great of yourself. You got to bring yourself down. Where you really care about people. It's just, as my father said, believe in God, love your country, and love your family in that order. That's what he always said. Don't lie.
Yeah, the Marine Corps puts the Marine Corps somewhere in there, right? When you do
Well, he was in the Marines. He was in the Air Force stuff, but
it's in the Air Force. All right, we'll let that slide then. Well, here's my final three questions I ask everybody, Bruce. I'm really curious your answers. The first is, what's the best piece of career advice you've ever gotten?
I don't take yourself seriously. I think if you think you're that great, you're not that great. There's always going to be somebody better than you, anyways. And that's why I like about the best thing I like at American Heritage is I like to see young people grow up the ladder, and become vice presidents or COs or CFOs. That's what I really like, and I just enjoyed it. I like seeing young people move up the ladder, and anybody below 69.
It's a nice broad definition of young people.
Right.
You got the opposite definition of my kids. My kids say anybody over 20 is old. I crossed into old man territory a long time ago for my kid. I like your definition better. You're young under 69.
Right.
My second question, what's the best advice you've gotten about the kind of consumer banking credit union industry in general?
I think we're in a transitional stage right now. I don't have a clue. I think Bitcoin destroyed the confidence of what people are thinking as money, and you saw how much people lost. But people are still out there freaking buying that stuff. It's up to 23,000 today. I said, what is wrong with you people? And I think people are just so easy to put stuff out there, personal information, that they don't know what they're doing. And that's my advice is, hey, watch what you're investing, make sure it's solid.
Maybe back to fundamentals.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If they don't regulate it, the federal government doesn't regulate it, I don't see it flying, but who knows?
The Bitcoin is I made a bunch of money in Bitcoin because I bought one in like 2012 just because I was like, what is this thing? I got to figure out what it is. I don't understand it. And then I forgot about it for like 7 years. And that turned out to be a really good thing to have done. It wasn't exactly intentional, but I was like, well, let's put $1,000 in and see, I got to go, I'm a big believer that you can't really understand something. My wife in her medical school, they had a saying, you see one, do one, teach one. I kind of like, I can't understand it unless I do it. And better yet, if I teach someone else to do it, my mom or my dad, someone who's a little less savvy in the technical space. And that's when you really understand. So I was like, I got to go do it to understand it. So that worked out well for me. But I've never understood the fundamentals of a lot of that. I kind of just look at it and go, what's the, I want to understand the basics and how something is supposed to work. And those, same thing with a lot of the, what caused the mortgage crisis. You kind of got away from the fundamentals and these CDOs and CDO squareds. And, there was just, nobody could really explain to you exactly what was happening and why a bunch of junk bonds could become AAA bonds if you just pooled them together. And I think when you get away from the fundamentals, you start to miss something.
And can you explain what blockchain really is? All these ledgers.
That I can do. That's a computer science concept. I can do that.
All these ledgers that are out there, how do they get all the same answer that quickly? And I said, I don't know how, amazing.
Oh, they're not all that quick. They take, 10 minutes, 20 minutes sometimes to get to a point where you feel confident that the chain will be solid, which is, if you compare that to the transaction processing time on a credit card network, not so good. And if we actually get Fed now and some of the real-time, interbank transfer stuff, you'll say, hey, that's like truly resolved transaction in seconds, which is not what we really have even on the blockchain. So I do think it will push the state of the art, right? It's going to force us to go, hey, it had these features that were really nice. Like, I could transfer money with no fees internationally. Go, what? That makes sense. We should be able to do that. There's no reason we got to pay these. I can do stuff instantaneously. Yeah, there's no reason it takes 3 days to settle an ACH. We can shorten that time. And maybe we were as an industry a little lazy in getting some of those innovations, and it's going to push us. But my sense is if I can get real-time bank transfer, like, well, that's pretty good. Maybe I don't need blockchain if I can have that and transaction-free international transfers, things like that.
Well, that's what I'm hoping comes out, with the Fed now, it works. I don't know anybody doing it. I don't know anybody doing it.
I know people talking about it, and I know a guy working at the Fed working on it. So I'm confident that we'll get there, and it'll be, it'll solve a lot of the pain points for regular people. So my last question, maybe we veered in this territory a little bit, was always, what's one bold prediction for the future? This is so I can bring you back in a year and we can check in if you were right or wrong, kind of thing.
The sun will rise.
I don't know how bold that is. This has been going on for a long time, pretty regularly, without fail.
I don't. Change will come. I think the more it changes, the more it stays the same. That's all I would say. I don't think you're talking about going back to basics. I think that's what ends up happening. It's just more of a basic type thing. What is Fed now? That's a basic thing. It just people got involved with it, right?
The more things change, the more they stay the same. I don't know how I'll exactly hold your feet to the fire on that, but I think it's a good bold prediction. It is. I think some people think the world is going to be upended, and I think maybe your statement is things will change, but some of the basics and the fundamentals are going to stay the same, and that's I think an interesting perspective.
Yeah. So.
All right, Bruce, thank you for making the time today. I greatly appreciate it. This was a fun conversation. We ranged from Bitcoin to Ukraine, so I think to firefight. So we covered a lot of ground, but I appreciate you joining us and sharing your perspectives.
All right, brother. Take care. Thank you.